Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Truth with Kes. So today I want to speak about something that I read in Scripture about two important characters in the Bible, David and Solomon. Two very, very important characters. Now, if you look at the story of David and Solomon, very interesting story. Why? Because David happened to be the second king of Israel, and one that sort of was a landmark in terms of kingship, because you find out that when you read through the Bible, First Kings, Second Kings, you find God always saying something, that I will do this because of my servant David, for my servant David's sake. So David was like a landmark for God to sort of address people, or like a symbol for what a good kingship is all about. Now, this important character David had a son, Solomon, and then he handed over the leadership, the reins of power to Solomon. And you find God always saying something, for my servant David's sake. But an interesting part that I want us to look at is the fact that David was an advantage to Solomon as a father. But Solomon was not an advantage to his son. Why? If you read the book of First Kings chapter 10, you see the wealth of Solomon, how that Solomon was so wealthy, had lots of riches, also with that which the father gave him to build the temple. So you see all those things with Solomon. But one interesting thing now happened when you now move to chapter 10, First Kings 11. It now said, but Solomon loved many strange women. Now this is where the problem begins. He brought so many strange women, began to build altars and temples for these foreign gods. And then one day, the Lord appeared to Solomon. And the Bible records for us in 1 Kings 11 that the Lord appeared to Solomon and said, I've appeared to you twice, and I've warned you about these things that you are doing. But this is what is going to happen. I'm going to take the kingdom away from your hands, and give it to somebody else. But for my servant David's sake, I will not do it in your days. I will do it in the days of your son. Now, Solomon's son had not even gotten into power, but the father has placed Solomon at a disadvantaged position. I need to look at this. David was an advantage to Solomon. Why? Because when Solomon messed up, God said, because of David, I'm not going to take this kingdom away from your hands in your own days. But for his son, Solomon's son, Rehoboam, who had not even come into power, by default, the Bible said, God said, I'm going to tear the kingdom in the days of your son. What am I trying to bring out here? As a father, as a parent, ensure that you are an advantage to your children. Don't live your life or set up circumstances that long after you are gone, your children will be fighting battles that you created. If you look at the story of Rehoboam, how did Rehoboam's story start? The Bible said that after Solomon died, the people came to Rehoboam and said, listen, your father put so much burden on us. We want you to lessen our burden. And then he took counsel from the elderly and took counsel from the younger ones. And then he made the wrong decision. And he said, to your tents, O Israel. This is how Israel was divided into 10. 2 tribes to the north, 10 tribes to the north, I beg your pardon, and 2 tribes, down. And God said, for my servant David's sake, I will preserve a house for him. Now, see, David was still an advantage. But people will look at Solomon and look at Rehoboam and say, okay, Rehoboam made a wrong call. He made a wrong decision. But what they did not realize is that the predeterminate counsel of the Godhead has already decided that that kingdom will return in the days of, the reigns of Rehoboam. Why? Because of his father, Solomon. I'm appealing to us as fathers, as leaders, please do not set up the next generation for a fall. I would rather we stick to the pattern of David, where a child will be maybe messing up and God will say, for the sake of my son, for the sake of your father, I will pull this child. For the sake of this, I will empower this child. For the sake of this, I will show favor to this child. I want us to go with this word. Do not be a disadvantage to your children as parents. As leaders, do not be a disadvantage to the people that are following you. Always be an advantage to whoever God has placed you ahead of. Be an advantage, not a disadvantage. God bless you.